Hey friends, I'm glad you're here. This is an original story from Hidden Revenge Family, and it took a turn you truly didn't see coming. Let's get into it.
The sound hit me first. Crisp champagne glasses clinking under chandelier light, echoing across the ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton in Washington, D.C. It was clean, polished, controlled. The kind of sound that didn't belong anywhere near me. I pushed through the heavy glass doors anyway. Every head didn't turn, but enough did. Not because I mattered, because I didn't fit. I hadn't slept in almost 48 hours. My field uniform was wrinkled, dust still clung to the fabric, and the faint smell of antiseptic followed me like it had something to prove. My hands were worse. Stained yellow from betadine dirt packed under my nails. Small cuts along my knuckles that hadn't had time to heal. I looked like exactly what I was. And this place was built to pretend people like me didn't exist. I spotted the stage first, then the banner, then the crowd, Savannah's engagement party. Also her celebration for the promotion she wouldn't stop talking about. Pentagon level. Big room, bigger ego. That tracked. I moved forward anyway. Near the center of the room, my mother stood like she owned the place. Meredith Blake didn't just host events, she performed them. Perfect posture, perfect smile, perfect white silk gloves that probably cost more than my monthly paycheck. She was laughing at something a senator said when she saw me. The smile froze. It didn't fade. It snapped, like someone hit pause on her face. I kept walking, not fast, not slow, just enough to make it normal. "Mom," I said, reaching out. That was my mistake. She stepped back like I'd pulled a knife on her. Not a big step. Just enough. Then she tucked her gloved hands behind her back. "Don't," she hissed, barely moving her lips. Her eyes flicked around the room, checking who might be watching. "Don't touch me." I stopped. For a second, I thought maybe I misheard her. Then her eyes dropped to my hands. And I saw it. Disgust. Real, unfiltered disgust. "Look at you," she said under her breath, her voice tight. "What is that on your hands?" I didn't answer. Because I knew. "You walk in here like this," she went on. "Covered in whatever that is. You bring that kind of filth into a diplomatic event." I could feel people nearby starting to notice. Not what she was saying. Just the tone, the tension. That's all it takes in rooms like this. Savannah stepped closer, her heels sharp against the marble floor. Carter was right behind her, one hand casually holding a glass, like he'd been born with it. Savannah glanced at my hands and gave a small, amused exhale. "Wow," she said. "You didn't even try." Carter smirked. "I thought there was a dress code." I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on my mother. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice even more. "Go stand near the kitchen," she said. "Out of sight. We're taking family photos later, and I will not have you ruining them." There it was. Not anger, not concern. Image. Always image. I slowly pulled my hand back. Didn't argue, didn't defend myself. I just slid both hands into my pockets. "Got it," I said. Savannah let out a quiet laugh like this was all exactly how it was supposed to go. "Honestly," she added, "you could have at least cleaned up. It's not that hard." I glanced at her. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect little world where everything looked right because she never had to touch anything real. "Yeah," I said, "I'll keep that in mind next time I'm pulling people out of collapsed structures." Carter raised an eyebrow, but Savannah just rolled her eyes. "Drama," she muttered. Of course, because if it didn't happen in her conference room, it didn't count. My mother straightened up again, smile already snapping back into place as another guest approached. "Please," she said quietly without looking at me, "just don't embarrass us tonight." That part almost made me laugh. Almost. I stepped back. One step, then another. And just like that, I was out of the center of the room. Back where I apparently belonged. Near the service corridor. Close enough to hear the kitchen staff moving behind the doors. Far enough that no one important had to look at me twice. I leaned against the wall watching. Savannah moved through the crowd like she was already part of something bigger. Carter stayed close, whispering things that made her smile just a little wider. My mother adjusted everything around them, people lighting angles like she was setting up a photo shoot instead of a family moment. It was efficient. I'll give her that. I kept my hands in my pockets. Not because I was ashamed of them, because I didn't feel like explaining them. There's a difference. I glanced down anyway. The stains hadn't faded. The dirt was still there. A thin line of dried blood near my wrist cracked slightly when I flexed my fingers. These hands had been inside places no one in that room would ever go. Places that didn't care about dress codes or champagne. Places where clean wasn't even an option, and somehow that made them the problem. I shifted my weight, letting out a slow breath. Then I felt it. A vibration, small, sharp, deliberate. Not my phone, different. I reached into my jacket just enough to check. Satellite comm device. Secure channel. The screen flashed once. Red, tier 1. I stilled, just for a second. The noise of the room didn't change. Laughter, glasses, music, someone clapping at something Savannah said on stage. Normal. All of it felt normal, except it wasn't, because tier 1 didn't happen for nothing. I closed my hand around the device and slid it back into place. No reaction, no expression, just another person standing in the corner, invisible. Behind me, someone opened the kitchen door. A burst of heat and noise spilled out, then disappeared just as fast. I looked back toward the stage. Savannah was already holding a microphone now. Of course she was. Center of attention, exactly where she liked to be. I leaned my head slightly against the wall, eyes steady. They thought my hands were dirty, that I didn't belong here, that I was something to hide. That was fine, because in a few minutes, maybe less, these same hands were about to be sent somewhere none of them would ever survive. And the people who called them disgusting wouldn't last 5 minutes doing what they were about to be asked to do. I pushed off the wall, not rushing, not hesitating, just ready. Then I looked back at the room one more time, at my mother, at Savannah, at the life they were so desperate to protect. And I almost said something, but I didn't, because they wouldn't understand it anyway. So instead I let the moment sit exactly as it was, clean, perfect, fake. Then I made my decision. Have you ever been treated like you didn't belong, only to realize later you were the only one in the room who actually did? I kept my eyes on the stage, the spotlight washing Savannah in gold, while I stayed tucked in the shadow by the kitchen door. She looked right at home up there, confident, polished, like she actually earned it. Savannah lifted the microphone with both hands, letting the room settle before she spoke. She knew how to work a crowd. I'll give her that. Thank you all for being here tonight, she began. Voice smooth, controlled. This past year has been intense. A few people chuckled like they were in on something. She smiled just enough. As many of you know, I've been leading a critical medical logistics initiative supporting a high-level diplomatic mission in the Middle East. I didn't move, didn't blink, just listened. Designing a system that ensures rapid response, casualty stabilization, and secure evacuation under unpredictable conditions, she continued. It's been one of the most challenging projects of my career. That part almost got me, not because it was impressive, because it was mine. Every word she was saying I had written, not like this, not cleaned up for a ballroom, but the structure, the strategy, the entire operational backbone mine. A month ago, I stayed up 3 nights straight building that framework. Not for recognition, because someone needed it done right. Savannah needed it handed to her, and I handed it over. That was my second mistake. I'm proud to say, she went on, that the plan has been approved at the highest levels and is already being implemented. Applause, of course. Carter stepped in beside her, raising his glass like he'd just invested in the smartest person in the room. To Savannah, he said, "The woman who doesn't just rise to the occasion, she defines it." More applause. Savannah tilted her head slightly, soaking it in. I leaned back against the wall, arms crossed now, not because I was comfortable, because I didn't feel like clapping. The details she shared got more specific. Evacuation corridors, forward triage zones, contingency fallback points. She didn't miss a beat, because she didn't have to think about it. I already did that part. And the people listening, they were impressed. Because from their perspective, she built something clean, efficient, and reliable. They didn't see the version of that plan written at 3 a.m. with dirt still under my nails and half a cup of cold coffee keeping me awake. They saw the version with a name on it, her name. Savannah finished with a soft smile and a slight nod, like she was modest about the whole thing. The room stood up for her. Actually stood. That part was new. I watched it happen. Didn't feel angry. Didn't feel cheated. Just clear. Because now I knew exactly how this worked. It wasn't about who did the job. It was about who told the story after. And Savannah was really good at telling stories. The music picked back up softer this time. People moved toward the bar, conversations starting up again in smaller circles. The moment passed. Just like that. I checked my watch. Still ticking, still quiet, for now. Guests started drifting toward the exits. Some stayed to talk business, others just wanted one more drink before calling it a night. I stayed where I was, no reason to move yet. Eventually, Savannah stepped down from the stage, Carter right behind her like a shadow with good posture. They stopped a few feet away from me, talking to someone important enough that they both nodded more than usual. When that conversation ended, Carter turned and spotted me. Of course he did. He handed his glass off to a waiter without looking, then walked straight over. No hesitation, no smile, just purpose. He stopped close enough that I could smell the cologne, expensive, subtle, the kind that doesn't try too hard, unlike him. "You're still here," he said. I didn't answer, didn't need to. He glanced at my hands still tucked into my pockets, then back up at my face. "You really don't get it, do you?" I tilted my head slightly. "Get what?" He exhaled like I was already wasting his time. "This," he said, gesturing around the room. "This level, this environment, you don't belong in it." I let that sit for a second. "Yeah," I said. "I picked up on that." He didn't smile. "Good." Once Savannah takes her position at the Pentagon, he continued, lowering his voice. "I'll have enough influence to make certain adjustments." I already knew where this was going. "Transfers," he said. "Assignments, career paths." There it was. "I can have you reassigned to a remote medical unit in Alaska within a week." I looked at him, not surprised, not impressed, just listening. "Cold," he added. "Isolated, quiet, seems like your kind of place." He leaned in just slightly. "This family doesn't need someone like you around," he said. "You're a distraction, a distraction." That was new. I glanced down at my watch again, still ticking, still quiet. Then I looked back at him. "You should be more concerned about that plan," I said. He frowned. "What Savannah's plan?" I repeated. "The one she just presented." His eyes narrowed. "It's solid," he said. "Reviewed. Approved." "What about it?" I held his gaze. "You might want to double-check how it performs under real pressure," I said. He studied me for a second, trying to decide if I was bluffing. I wasn't. Before he could respond, every phone in the room went off, not all at once, but close enough, sharp, loud, urgent. Different tones, same message, emergency alert. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. People froze. Then hands moved fast. Jackets, pockets, tables, everyone grabbing their devices at the same time. I didn't move. I already knew. Carter pulled his phone out, eyes scanning the screen. His expression changed immediately. Not panic, but not confidence either. Savannah turned from across the room, already reading hers. "What is it?" someone asked. No one answered right away. Then one voice, low but clear. "Diplomatic compound in the Middle East. Under attack." That cut through everything. The room shifted. Posture changed. Voices dropped. The casual tone disappeared. Savannah stepped forward quickly, already dialing. "Get me command," she said. "Now." Carter moved beside her, focused, controlled. The party was over. Just like that. I pushed off the wall. Finally, my hand slipped back into my jacket fingers. Brushing the satellite device. Still red, still waiting. I looked at Savannah. At the plan she just claimed. At the people who believed in it. Then I looked at Carter, at the confidence that was already starting to crack. And I almost said something again, almost. But I didn't. Because they were about to find out the hard way, and nothing I said would make it clearer than that. I checked my watch one more time. Then I moved. Not toward them, toward the exit. Because whatever was happening out there, it wasn't a speech. It wasn't a presentation. And it definitely wasn't clean. And the people who built their careers pretending it was, they were about to see exactly how wrong they were. The alarms in that ballroom didn't fade out. They turned into rotor blades tearing through hot desert air. 72 hours later, the Black Hawk shook hard as we dropped altitude. Dust kicked up in thick waves, slamming against the windshield, turning everything outside into a brown blur. The pilot kept it steady, but I could feel every correction in my spine. 2 minutes out, he shouted. I tightened my grip on the strap above me and checked my gear again. Medical pack secured, sidearm loaded, comms active. My hands weren't clean, still weren't. Now they were covered in something else too. Sweat, oil, old blood that didn't belong to me. This wasn't a ballroom anymore. This was real. Ground is hot, the crew chief yelled. Multiple hostiles, perimeter unstable. No one on this bird needed that reminder. I leaned forward slightly. Eyes locked ahead. Through the dust I could see it. The embassy, or what was left of it. Smoke curled up from multiple points. One section of the outer wall was gone completely. Vehicles burned near the entrance. Gunfire flashed in short bursts around the perimeter. They weren't just under attack. They were getting overrun. "Command, this is Echo Med 1 inbound for extraction," the pilot called. Static answered first. Then a voice. Familiar, too familiar. "Echo Med 1, you are to hold position until perimeter is secured." Savannah's voice came through sharp and tight. "Do not land until I confirm safe corridor access." I closed my eyes for half a second. Of course she was on comms. Of course she was in charge of coordination. "Negative," the pilot replied immediately. "We have casualties on site. We're going in." "Hold position," Savannah snapped. That is a direct gunfire cracked closer. The pilot didn't wait. "We're landing." The bird dropped the rest of the way. Hard. The second we touched down, the world outside exploded into noise. "Go, go, go." I jumped out with the team boots hitting sand that felt like it was trying to burn through the soles. The air smelled like fuel and concrete dust. "Move," someone yelled. We ran low, cutting toward the damaged section of the building. Rounds snapped overhead. "Too close." Left side suppressing fire. One of the security guys shouted. I didn't look. Didn't slow down. Inside. That was the objective. Behind us, the Black Hawk lifted slightly, repositioning just enough to avoid becoming a sitting target. "Echo Med 1, you are out of position." Savannah's voice cut in again. "You are compromising the entire..." I reached up and turned my comm volume down. Not off, just enough, because right now she wasn't helping. Inside the building, it was worse. The lobby was barely recognizable. Glass everywhere. Furniture flipped. Smoke hanging low enough to sting my eyes. "Medical," I shouted. "Anyone mobile, call out?" A groan answered from somewhere to my right. I moved fast, dropping to one knee beside a security officer pinned under part of a collapsed beam. Leg crushed. "Bleeding, bad, I got you," I said, already pulling out supplies. "Tourniquet, tight," he screamed. "Good, still conscious." "You're staying with me," I told him. "You hear me?" He nodded barely. "Team 2, we've got one critical," I called. "Marking position." "Copy," someone answered. Gunfire echoed deeper inside the building. We weren't alone in here. I secured the man as best as I could, then flagged another medic to take over. "Get him out when you can." I said, already moving again. The intel was clear. The ambassador was still inside. Lower level, safe room, if he was still alive. I pushed toward the stairwell, stepping over debris, ignoring the heat building around me. "Riley," a voice came through my comm. Lower now, more controlled. "Savannah, you need to redirect to secondary triage. The ambassador is being handled by..." I cut her off. "Negative," I said. "I'm closest. You are not assigned to that extraction," she snapped. "Then update your assignment list," I replied, already taking the stairs, 2 at a time. Silence. Then sharper, "You are out of line." I didn't answer, because she wasn't here. I was. At the bottom of the stairs, the air got heavier. Less smoke, more heat. The safe room door was half open. That wasn't a good sign. I pushed it the rest of the way. Inside it was dark. Emergency lights flickered just enough to see shapes, and one of them was on the ground. David Kensington, the ambassador. He was conscious, barely. Blood pooled under him, dark and spreading. Leg wound, high, too high, arterial. I dropped beside him immediately. "Mr. Ambassador, can you hear me?" I said, already assessing. His eyes moved toward me, focused for a second, then slipped. "I'm here," I said. "You're not dying today." His breathing was shallow. Fast. He didn't have much time. I reached for my gloves, then stopped. Didn't have time. Not for that. I pressed my hands directly into the wound. Hard. He gasped. Body jerking. "Stay with me," I said, adjusting pressure. "Stay with me." Blood soaked through instantly. Warm, slippery, real. Over comms, Savannah's voice came back louder now. "Status update," she demanded. "Who is on the ambassador?" I ignored it. Focused on the rhythm, pressure, breathing, staying ahead of the bleed. "Riley, respond," she snapped. "You need to confirm." I reached up and killed the channel. Silence, finally, because none of what she was saying mattered right now. Only this did. The ambassador's hand grabbed my sleeve, weak but desperate. I leaned closer. "You're okay," I told him. "I've got you." His eyes locked on mine for a second. Not scared, just aware. Like he knew exactly how bad it was. "Don't He tried. You're not going anywhere, I cut in. Not today. I shifted my weight, preparing to move him. Team. I've got the package, I called on a different channel. Need extraction now. Copy, came the response. Bird repositioning. You've got 30 seconds. 30 seconds. That was generous. I got my arm under him, keeping pressure with the other hand. Okay, I said quietly. This is going to suck. He didn't argue. Good. I lifted. Dead weight, heavy, but manageable. We moved. Back through the hallway, up the stairs, gunfire still snapping outside. The world didn't slow down for this. It never does. By the time I reached the exit, the second bird was already coming in. Move, move, someone shouted. I didn't stop, didn't hesitate, just pushed forward. Because this was the job. Not speeches, not credit, not clean hands, just this. And the people who thought otherwise, they were about to learn exactly what it really took. The gunfire outside faded into something tighter, breathing fast and uneven, and the steady drip of blood hitting concrete in the dark. I dropped back to one knee inside the safe room, adjusting my grip on the ambassador as I lowered him just enough to get control again. The bleeding hadn't slowed. If anything, it was worse. The wound was high on his thigh, too high for a standard tourniquet to do the job. Shrapnel had torn deep, and every second I didn't stop it, he was losing more blood than his body could handle. I leaned in, scanning fast. No surgical kit, no clean field, no backup, just me, and a man who had maybe minutes left. His hand twitched against my sleeve. Stay with me, I said, already shifting position. I didn't reach for gloves this time, didn't even think about it. I drove my hand straight into the wound, hard. He choked out a sound that wasn't quite a scream, his whole body locking up under me. Yeah, I know, I said, pressing deeper. I know, but this is what keeps you alive. Blood covered my fingers, instantly hot and thick, running down my wrist. I adjusted pressure, searching for the artery, found it, and held. That was it. No fancy technique. No clean tools, just pressure, relentless. His breathing hitched, then steadied just enough. That told me I had it. Outside gunfire cracked again, closer this time. The building wasn't going to hold much longer. Over the comms, Savannah's voice came back in sharp bursts, cutting through static. All units maintain perimeter integrity. Do not compromise structure stability. We need controlled. I reached up with my free hand and shut the channel off completely. Silence, finally. Because none of that mattered down here. Her plan didn't account for this. Didn't account for blood that wouldn't stop. Didn't account for the fact that sometimes the only thing between someone and death is how hard you're willing to push your hands into a wound. Listen to me, I said, leaning closer so he could hear me over everything else. You're getting out of here. You understand? His eyes found mine, barely, but they held. Not fear, not panic. Just focus. He knew. People at his level always know. You're not done, I said. Not today. His grip tightened weakly on my sleeve. That was enough. I shifted my stance, keeping pressure with one hand, while sliding my arm under his back. This part was going to be messy. Okay, I said. We're moving. I lifted. He was heavier than he looked. Dead weight always is. I kept my hand locked in place, maintaining pressure as I pulled him up against me. Blood soaked through my uniform, warm against my side. Didn't matter. Extraction inbound, a voice came through on the secondary channel. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. That was optimistic. I moved anyway, step by step, out of the safe room, through the hallway. Each step was a calculation. Don't slip. Don't lose pressure. Don't drop him. Gunfire echoed closer as I reached the base of the stairs. Move, someone shouted from above. I took the stairs 2 at a time. No choice. At the top, the air hit me hard, again. Smoke, heat, noise. The outside was chaos. Rounds snapping. Engines roaring. People shouting over each other. The second Blackhawk was already descending, kicking up another wave of dust. Here one of the crew yelled, waving me in. I didn't slow down. Didn't look left or right. Just moved, because stopping meant losing him. And that wasn't happening. We cleared the last stretch under covering fire boots, hitting open ground. Go, go, go. I pushed forward, climbing onto the bird with help from 2 crew members who grabbed his legs as I kept pressure on the wound. Get him on the stretcher, one of them shouted. We lowered him down together, carefully. Fast. I didn't let go. Not until I knew someone else had the pressure locked. Got it, the medic said, taking over. Only then did I pull my hand free. Blood coated it completely, thick, dark, real. I stepped back just as the bird lifted. The ground dropped away beneath us, the embassy shrinking into smoke and fire. Inside, everything shifted, from chaos to controlled urgency, vitals dropping. The medic called out, "I need fluids now." I leaned against the side of the cabin, catching my breath for the first time in what felt like hours. My hands shook slightly, not from fear, from adrenaline finally starting to level out. I looked down at them, still dirty, still stained, now with more than just dirt. The ambassador's chest rose and fell shallow but steady enough. He wasn't gone, not yet, and that was the win. I reached up and grabbed my comm again, powered it back on. Static filled the channel for a second. Then voices, overlapping, command center, controlled chaos. Savannah was still there, still talking, still trying to control something she wasn't anywhere near. Need confirmation on the ambassador's status, immediately she was saying. All units respond. I keyed in, direct channel, command priority. My voice cut through everything. Package is secure. Silence hit the line for half a second. Just enough. Then I added, tell the major to shut her mouth. Flat, no emotion, just fact. On the other end I could feel the shift, the pause, the recognition, because she knew that voice. Even if she didn't expect to hear it. Riley Savannah said quieter now. I didn't answer her, didn't need to, because the message was already clear. I released the channel and clipped the comm back onto my vest. Across from me, the ambassador's hand moved slightly on the stretcher, small, weak, but there, alive. I sat down, finally resting my back against the cold metal wall of the helicopter. The noise of the rotors filled the space, steady and constant. No applause, no spotlight, no clean version of the story, just the truth, messy, loud, and impossible to fake. I glanced at my hands one more time, then wiped them off on my uniform like it didn't matter, because out here, it didn't. What mattered was simple. He was alive, and the people who thought this kind of work could be done from a quiet room with a perfect plan, they just got their first real lesson. The comms went dead in the desert, and 3 weeks later, the sound that replaced it was quiet. Controlled paper sliding across polished wood inside my family's study. I stood just outside the door. Didn't knock, didn't move, just listened. The house smelled like money again. Clean floors, filtered air, nothing out of place. Like the last 3 weeks hadn't happened. Like none of it ever did. My wrist still ached slightly where the new scar cut across it. Thin, clean, permanent. I flexed my hand once, then let it rest. Inside the room, voices overlapped in low, focused tones. Savannah, Carter, and my mother. We need consistency across all statements, Carter was saying. Calm, controlled. Like he was managing a campaign, not rewriting what actually happened. The timeline has to stay aligned with the official release. Savannah didn't sound panicked anymore. She sounded practiced. I already reviewed the briefing, she said. Everything supports centralized command execution. Ground-level actions are listed as non-attributable. Non-attributable. That was one way to say erased. Carter continued, good. That means the narrative holds. Strategic oversight from DC prevented escalation. You maintained operational stability. Savannah exhaled lightly. Which is true, I almost smiled at that. Not because it was funny, because it wasn't even creative. Inside, a glass touched the desk with a soft click. My mother's voice came next, lighter, excited. This is perfect, Meredith said. Exactly what we needed. Of course it was. Press already picked it up, Carter added. They're calling it one of the most controlled diplomatic crisis responses in recent years. Controlled. I leaned slightly against the wall. That word didn't belong anywhere near what happened. Savannah shifted in her chair. I could hear it. And the ambassador, she asked. Carter paused for half a second. He's recovering, he said. But the official report is already filed. His statement will follow the same structure. I frowned slightly. That part mattered. Because David Kensington wasn't the kind of man who just repeated what someone handed him. But then again, people like Carter were good at making things sound official. Savannah didn't question it. Good, she said simply. No hesitation, no doubt. Because why would she? The system was working exactly how she needed it to. My mother let out a small laugh. Oh, this is just wonderful, she said. All of it. I could hear her pacing now. From engagement to promotion to national recognition, Savannah, you've outdone yourself. Savannah didn't correct her, didn't even try. Carter filled the silence. General Garrett will be here tomorrow evening, he said. Private ceremony, select media coverage, controlled environment. That got my attention. General Garrett didn't show up for small things. That meant this was bigger than just headlines. My mother clapped her hands together softly. A general, she said almost to herself. In our home. I could picture her face without seeing it. Perfect smile, perfect posture, already planning angles, lighting, who stands where. Make sure everything is flawless, she added. I don't want anything out of place. Savannah laughed quietly. Relax, Mom, it's handled. Handled. Right. Carter spoke again, tone shifting slightly. There is one thing, he said. The room quieted. What? Meredith asked. A loose variable, he replied. I didn't need him to say my name. Savannah didn't either. She's not a factor, Savannah said immediately. She wasn't listed in any official capacity. Carter didn't sound convinced. She was on the ground, he said. That's not nothing. Savannah's tone hardened just slightly. It's classified, she said. Ground personnel identities are sealed. No one knows who did what down there. I looked down at my hands. The scars were still there, faint in some places, sharper in others, not sealed, not hidden, just there. Inside, Carter exhaled slowly. Then we keep it that way, he said. No unnecessary exposure. My mother stepped back and voice sharper now. Yes, absolutely, Meredith said. There's no reason to involve Riley in any of this. There it was. Savannah didn't argue, didn't hesitate. She won't show up, Savannah said. She knows better, I almost laughed at that. Knows better, like this was about rules. My mother's tone softened again, but not in a good way. Honestly, she said, she's not relevant here. No one even knows who she is. I shifted my weight slightly, still didn't move. Tomorrow is about Savannah, Meredith continued. About excellence, about achievement. We are not letting some field nurse with dirty hands disrupt that. Field nurse, that was new, creative at least. Carter chuckled quietly. She won't be invited, he said. Problem solved. My mother let out a relieved breath. Good, she said, because the last thing we need is her showing up looking like that. Silence settled for a second. Then Savannah spoke again, lighter now. So we're agreed, she asked. Carter answered first. We're aligned. My mother followed. Completely, that was it. Decision made, narrative locked, history adjusted. I stood there for another second, then another, waiting for something, a pause, a doubt, anything. Nothing came, just quiet agreement. I looked down at my hands again, turned them slightly under the hallway light, scars across the knuckles, faint yellow still caught in the edges of my nails, a thin line of healed skin along my wrist where the blade had caught me during extraction. Proof. Every mark told the same story, one they were busy rewriting inside that room. I didn't feel angry, didn't feel hurt, not even surprised, just clear, because this wasn't the first time they picked image over truth. It was just the first time the stakes were this high. Inside chairs shifted, papers moved again, they were done, conversation moving on like nothing important had just been decided. I pushed off the wall quietly, still didn't knock, still didn't go in, because there was nothing in that room I needed. No explanation, no confrontation, no scene. They already made their choice. And now I knew exactly where I stood. I took one last look at my hands, then slid them into my pockets, because they thought a classified file could erase what happened. Thought a clean report could replace blood. Thought if no one said my name, it didn't matter. That was the part they got wrong, because paper can be controlled, stories can be edited. But what actually happens, that doesn't disappear. Not when it leaves marks, not when it leaves people alive who shouldn't be. And definitely not when the truth is still walking around with scars to prove it. I turned and walked down the hallway without making a sound. No rush, no hesitation, just done listening. Because if they wanted to build their version of the story, I'd let them, for now. The violin started before I even stepped inside, smooth and controlled, the kind of music that makes everything feel expensive whether it is or not. The chandelier light hit first, bright, clean, reflecting off crystal glasses and polished floors like nothing in this house had ever been out of place. I walked in anyway. The room was already full. Military uniforms, tailored suits, press badges tucked neatly into pockets. People who knew how to stand, how to smile, how to say the right thing at the right time. And right in the center of it, my mother. Meredith looked exactly how she always wanted to be seen. Perfect dress, perfect posture, perfect voice as she greeted each guest like she was hosting something historic. "Thank you for coming," she said, smiling wide. "Tonight is very special for our family." Of course it was. Savannah stood a few feet away, already surrounded. Officers, advisors, a couple of reporters, leaning in just enough to show interest without looking desperate. "She's the reason that ambassador is still alive," my mother continued loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "A true savior of American diplomacy." I paused just inside the entrance. Didn't interrupt, didn't react, just let it play, because they had rehearsed this. Every word, every angle. Savannah nodded modestly like she didn't want the attention but knew she deserved it. "I just did my job," she said. That line almost impressed me. Almost. I adjusted my jacket slightly and stepped further into the room. A few people noticed. Not because they recognized me. Because of the uniform. Class A, clean, pressed. Every detail exactly where it should be. And my hands, not in my pockets this time. Visible. Scars didn't go away just because the setting changed. I moved to the edge of the room and stopped near one of the columns. Same place as before. Different room, same idea. Invisible unless someone decided otherwise. I watched as my mother moved from group to group, repeating the same story with slight adjustments depending on who she was talking to. Brilliant under pressure, unmatched leadership, saved lives from thousands of miles away. Each version sounded better than the last. Savannah stayed close, smiling, nodding, accepting praise like she'd been trained for it. Carter handled the rest, quiet conversations, strategic introductions, making sure the right people were paying attention. It was efficient. I'll give them that. Then Carter saw me. Of course he did. His expression tightened for just a second before he excused himself from whoever he was talking to and walked straight over. Same approach as last time. Direct, controlled. He stopped in front of me, eyes scanning quickly. Uniform, posture, hands, then back to my face. "I told you not to come," he said quietly. I didn't move. "Yeah," I said. "You did." His jaw shifted slightly. "This isn't your place," he added. "Not tonight." I glanced around the room. "Seems like it," I said. He followed my line of sight for a second, then looked back at me. "You're making a mistake," he said. I shrugged slightly. "Wouldn't be my first." His eyes dropped to my hands. There it was again. Not disgust this time. Something closer to irritation. "Put your hands in your pockets," he said, "before someone notices." I looked at him, then at my hands, then back at him. "No," I said. Simple, flat, no room for negotiation. His expression hardened. "You don't understand how this works," he said. I tilted my head slightly. "No," I said. "I do." That seemed to annoy him more than anything else. He leaned in just slightly. "This is bigger than you," he said. "Don't ruin it." I held his gaze. "I'm not the one ruining anything," I said. That ended the conversation. He straightened up, forced a polite expression back onto his face, and stepped away. Back to his world, back to his version of things. I stayed where I was, didn't follow, didn't engage. Because this wasn't about arguing, it was about watching. Savannah eventually made her way to the front of the room, microphone already waiting. The violin faded out. Conversations quieted. All attention shifted to her. Of course it did. She adjusted the mic slightly, took a small breath, and looked out over the room. Perfect timing, perfect control. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began. Same tone as before, same delivery, different audience. "This past operation tested every limit we had," she continued. "Every decision carried weight. Every second mattered." I leaned back slightly against the column, arms relaxed at my sides, listening, because I wanted to hear how far she'd go. There were moments, she said, voice tightening just enough where the line between life and death was very thin. She paused. "Let it sit. Good technique. I had to make calls knowing that people's lives depended on them," she went on. "And that's something you don't take lightly." A few people nodded. Someone in the back wiped at their eye. Savannah lowered her head slightly like the memory was heavy. "I just kept thinking," she said softly, "if I don't get this right, someone doesn't come home." That was new. Adding emotion now. Smart move. The room was fully with her. She reached for a glass of champagne from the table beside her. held it up slightly. To the men and women who made it possible, she said, and to the responsibility we carry when lives are on the line. Applause started building, right on cue. I watched her, steady, calm, completely in control. Then, the front door slammed open, not gently, not politely, forced. Hard enough that the sound cut straight through the applause and killed it instantly. The violin stopped mid-note. Every head in the room turned at the same time. A group of Marine security personnel moved in first. Fast, precise, no hesitation. They weren't here for the party, they were here for something else. The room shifted, energy changed. Savannah lowered her glass slowly, confusion flashing across her face for the first time all night. Carter stepped forward slightly, already trying to read the situation. My mother froze where she stood, smile still on her face, but not reaching her eyes anymore. I didn't move, didn't need to, because I already knew this wasn't part of their plan. And whatever was about to happen next wasn't something they could control. The room went completely still as the people who actually mattered walked in. You could feel it before you even saw them. That shift, that quiet. The kind that doesn't come from respect. It comes from power. General Garrett stepped through the doorway first. 4 stars on his shoulders, posture, straight eyes, scanning the room like he already knew exactly what he was about to deal with. Right beside him, David Kensington, alive, walking, not steady but controlled. One hand gripping a wooden cane, the other relaxed at his side, like he didn't need to prove anything to anyone in that room. That alone changed everything. Behind them, Marine security lined the walls. No music, no chatter, just silence. My mother recovered first. Of course she did. Her smile snapped back into place like nothing had happened, and she moved quickly, weaving through the crowd with Savannah right behind her. Carter followed, adjusting his jacket as he went. Positioning, always positioning, General Garrett, my mother said. Voice bright, welcoming. What an honor to have you here tonight. Savannah stepped forward just enough to be seen, not enough to interrupt. Perfect balance. Sir, she said, nodding respectfully. Garrett gave a short nod back. No smile, no warmth, just acknowledgement. His eyes moved past them, scanning, looking for something or someone. Savannah didn't notice. She was already focused on the ambassador. This was her moment. She stepped forward smoothly, confidence back in place, like the last few seconds never happened. Ambassador Kensington, she said warmly, it's such a relief to see you standing. She extended her hand, carefully, perfectly. Fingers relaxed, palm angled just right, every detail controlled, ready for the handshake, ready for the cameras, ready for confirmation. The ambassador stopped in front of her. For a second, it looked like everything was about to go exactly the way she planned. Then he kept walking, didn't look at her, didn't slow down, didn't acknowledge the hand still hanging in the air. He just passed her, like she wasn't there, like she had nothing to do with why he was still breathing. Savannah's hand stayed extended for half a second too long, then another, long enough for people to notice, long enough for the room to feel it. She slowly pulled it back, smile still there, but thinner now. Carter's expression tightened slightly. My mother froze, and the ambassador kept walking, straight across the room, through the crowd. People stepped aside without being asked, because something about the way he moved made it clear this wasn't random, this wasn't polite. This was deliberate. I stayed where I was, back near the column, same place, same position, hands at my sides, no movement, no reaction, until he stopped in front of me. Up close, he looked different, paler, more tired, but his eyes sharp, focused, completely present. He studied me for a second, not confused, not unsure, just confirming. Then he shifted his cane slightly and let it fall. The wood hit the floor with a sharp crack that echoed through the silence. A few people flinched. No one spoke. He didn't look away from me, not for a second. Then he reached out, both hands, wrapped them around mine, firm, steady, like he remembered exactly what they felt like. The scars, the roughness, everything. I didn't pull back, didn't react, just stood there, because I knew what this was, and so did he. He lowered his head, slow, deliberate, and placed a kiss on my hands, right over the scars. The room didn't breathe, didn't move, didn't understand. And then he spoke. These hands, he said, voice steady, carrying across the entire room without needing to be raised, are the only reason my heart is still beating. No one moved, no one interrupted. because no one knew how. He lifted his head slightly, still holding my hands, and for the first time that night, he smiled. Not for the room, not for the cameras, just real. Thank you, he said quietly, for choosing action over protocol. I didn't say anything, didn't need to, because the message already landed. Behind him, I could feel it. The shift, the crack, the entire story they built breaking. Savannah stood frozen where he left her, her face still composed, but her eyes not matching anymore. Carter didn't move, didn't speak, because there was nothing he could say that would fix this. And my mother, for once, didn't have a line ready. General Garrett stepped forward, then stopping just behind the ambassador. His voice cut clean through the silence. Recognition matters, he said, but accuracy matters more. That was it. No speech, no build-up, just truth. Simple, direct, and impossible to ignore. I finally pulled one hand free, just enough to give the ambassador space to steady himself. He picked up his cane without breaking eye contact. Still grounded, still aware. The room slowly started to come back to life. Whispers, small movements, people trying to understand what they just saw. But it didn't matter, because the version of the story they came here believing was already gone. I glanced past him for a second. At Savannah, at the stage, at the glass still sitting where she left it, untouched, waiting for applause that wasn't coming anymore. Then I looked back at my hands, still scarred, still rough, still not clean, and somehow, for the first time that night, that wasn't a problem anymore, because now everyone in that room knew exactly what those hands were worth, and no amount of perfect speeches or polished lies was going to change that. The whispers started small, then spread fast, bouncing across the room like something people couldn't hold in anymore. I didn't turn, didn't need to. I could feel it. That shift from admiration to doubt, from confidence to damage control. Behind me, Meredith, Savannah, and Carter stood frozen, and for the first time in my life, they looked exactly like what they were. Not powerful, not in control, just exposed. General Garrett stepped forward without asking permission from anyone in that room. He reached the stage in a few steps, took the microphone straight out of Savannah's hand like it didn't belong to her anymore, because it didn't. She didn't fight him, didn't even try. Her fingers loosened automatically, like her body already understood something her mind hadn't caught up to yet. Garrett faced the room, no smile, no build-up, just straight to it. The classified report regarding the embassy attack has been partially declassified, he said. That was enough to silence everything, every whisper, every side conversation. Gone. Effective immediately, he continued, we are correcting the official record. I stayed where I was, hands at my sides, still. The individual responsible for the successful extraction and immediate life-saving intervention of Ambassador David Kensington. He paused just long enough, not for drama, for accuracy. Is Staff Sergeant Riley Blake. The room reacted this time, sharp, uncontrolled, because that wasn't the story they were told. That wasn't the version they showed up for. I didn't move, didn't step forward, didn't acknowledge it, because I wasn't here for that. Garrett didn't stop. Additionally, he said, voice just as steady, the Army Criminal Investigation Division has opened a formal inquiry into Major Savannah Blake. That hit harder. Even from where I stood, I could feel it. For falsification of official reports, he continued, and dereliction of duty during an active crisis. No one whispered now. No one dared. Because this wasn't rumor anymore. This was official. Final. I looked past him. Savannah didn't look shocked. She looked empty, like her brain was trying to process it and couldn't keep up. Carter reacted faster. Of course he did. His hand, which had been resting lightly on her back all night, dropped. Immediately, no hesitation. He took one step back, then another, creating distance. Not obvious, but enough. Enough to say everything. Savannah noticed. That part landed. She turned slightly toward him, just enough to confirm what she already felt. He didn't meet her eyes, didn't reach back, didn't fix it, because he wasn't built for that. He was built for survival, and right now, she wasn't it. My mother was slower, much slower, because this wasn't just reputation for her. This was identity. I watched her face change in real time. The smile gone, color draining, eyes moving too fast trying to find someone to fix it. But there wasn't anything. Because this wasn't a mistake. This was truth catching up. And truth doesn't negotiate. Then she saw me, and everything snapped into place. Her focus locked, target found, solution identified. She moved fast, faster than I expected. Heels hitting the floor harder than before. Dress shifting as she pushed through the space between us. "Riley," she said, voice already softening, already changing. That switch. I'd seen it before, just never this desperate. She reached for me, hands out. Smile forced back onto her face, but it didn't land right. Too tight, too late. "Oh my God, sweetheart," she said. "I knew it. I knew you were extraordinary." I didn't move, didn't step forward, didn't step back, just watched her. "Come here," she added, reaching for my hands. "Let me—" I pulled them away. Simple, clean, one step back. Just enough. Her hands closed on empty air. She froze, confused, like she didn't understand what just happened, like no one had ever done that to her before. I held her gaze, calm, flat, nothing behind it she could use. "Don't touch me," I said. Same tone she used, same words, no adjustment, no softening. Her expression cracked. Just slightly, what she said like she needed me to explain it. I didn't. "You said it yourself," I continued. "My hands are dirty." I lifted them slightly, let her see. The scars, the rough skin, everything she didn't want near her before. Wouldn't want to ruin the picture, I added. No sarcasm, no emotion, just memory. Her mouth opened, closed. Nothing came out, because there was nothing she could say that fixed this. Not here, not now, not ever. Savannah still hadn't moved, still standing near the stage, still trying to understand how fast everything collapsed. Carter was already further back, blending in, making himself smaller, safer. Garrett stepped down from the stage. The ambassador stood beside him, waiting, not for permission, for me. I didn't look back again, didn't need to, because everything I needed to see already happened. I turned and walked. Not fast, not slow, just steady, right past the crowd, right past the people who were suddenly very careful about where they stood. No one blocked the way. No one said a word, because they understood. This wasn't the kind of moment you interrupt. I stepped up beside the ambassador. He gave a small nod. Nothing big, just respect. Garrett glanced at me once. Same thing. Acknowledgement. That was enough. We walked toward the exit together. No spotlight, no announcement, no need. Because the truth didn't need help anymore. Behind me, I could still feel it. The silence, the damage, the collapse of something they spent years building. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was leaving something behind. I felt like I was done carrying it. I stepped out of the house and into the night air, cool, quiet, real. My hands rested at my sides, still marked, still not clean, but they never needed to be, because what they did spoke for itself. And finally, so did I, without saying another word. I woke up the next morning without an alarm, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel tired. Not because I got more sleep, because something in my head finally went quiet. No replaying conversations, no second guessing, no running through what I should have said or done differently. Just clear. I sat on the edge of the bed for a minute, looking at my hands. Same scars, same marks. Nothing about them changed overnight. But the way I saw them did. Because now I knew something I didn't fully understand before. I was never losing. I was just playing a different game. And that's where most people get it wrong. They think life is about fairness, recognition, getting credit for what you did. It's not. It's about outcomes. That's it. Savannah didn't win because she was better. She won because she controlled the story, until she didn't. And that's the first thing people need to understand. You don't win by fighting for credit. You win by making yourself impossible to ignore. There's a difference. If I had walked into that party weeks ago yelling, exposing her, trying to prove she stole my work, I would have lost. Not because I was wrong, because I would have looked emotional, defensive, weak, and people like Carter. They eat that up, they don't fight facts. They reposition perception. That's their game. And if you play it on their terms, you're already behind. So I didn't. I let the situation build. Let the pressure do its job. Because pressure reveals everything. That's the second lesson. You don't need to expose people. You just need to stop protecting them. Savannah wasn't exposed because I said something. She was exposed because reality showed up. Her plan wasn't built for real conditions. It was built to sound good. And when things went wrong, there was nothing behind it. That's what happens when someone builds a reputation on borrowed work. It holds up until it doesn't. And when it breaks fast. So if you're dealing with someone like that in your life, here's the truth. Stop trying to prove they're fake. Just step back. Let them operate without your support. Let the situation test them, because eventually it will. And when it does, you don't have to say a word. The third thing most people don't understand is silence. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is control. Every time you argue with someone who already decided who you are, you lose. Not because you're wrong, because you're playing defense. And defense doesn't win anything long term. I didn't argue with my mother. I didn't fight Savannah. I didn't go back and forth with Carter. Not because I couldn't. Because it wouldn't change anything. They didn't need information. They needed a version of me that fit their story. And no amount of explaining was going to fix that. So I stopped trying. And the moment I did, everything shifted. Because now they had nothing to push against. No reaction, no emotion, no leverage. Just space. And people hate that. They don't know what to do with it. That's where control comes from. Not from being louder, from being steady. The next thing I figured out, position matters more than effort. That one took me longer to accept. Because I was raised to believe hard work speaks for itself. It doesn't, not always. Savannah worked less than I did, but she positioned herself better. She was in the room, on the stage, in front of the people who mattered. And that gave her an advantage. Not because she deserved it, because she understood how the system worked. That doesn't mean you become like her. It means you stop ignoring that part of reality. If no one sees your work, you don't have influence. And without influence, you don't control outcomes. So what do? You build both. You get good at what you do, really good. Then you make sure the right people see the result. Not the effort, the result. That's the difference. Effort is invisible, results aren't. And timing matters. You don't show everything early. You don't reveal your full capability in low-stakes situations. You wait. You let it matter. Because when it matters, people pay attention. That's when truth hits harder. That's when it sticks. I stood up and walked over to the mirror, looked at myself for a second, not checking how I looked, just taking inventory. No anger, no frustration, just understanding. Because now I knew exactly what kind of game I was in. And more importantly, I knew I didn't have to play it the way they did. I didn't need to lie, didn't need to steal, didn't need to manipulate. All I needed was to be undeniable when it counted. That's it. That's the whole strategy. You don't win by being louder. You don't win by explaining yourself. You don't win by chasing validation from people who benefit from ignoring you. You win by being so solid in what you do that when reality shows up, it picks you, not them. And when that happens, you don't have to argue. You don't have to prove anything. You don't even have to speak, because the result already did it for you. So if you're sitting there right now, feeling overlooked, undervalued, like someone else is getting credit for what you built good, that means you're in the right position to learn this early. Stop fighting for recognition. Start building leverage. Stop reacting. Start observing. Stop explaining. Start positioning. And when your moment comes, make sure it counts. Because it will. It always does. And when it does, don't be louder. Be undeniable. If you were standing where Akbar stood that night, you'd probably think the story ended when I walked out that door. It didn't. That was just the part where everything finally made sense. And if you've ever felt like you didn't belong somewhere, like people kept underestimating you, like someone else was getting credit for what you built, then this part matters more than anything that came before it. Because this isn't about what happened to me. It's about what you do when it happens to you. So let me talk to you directly, not like a story, like someone who's been there. First thing, if you're being undervalued, stop trying to convince people you're worth more. That doesn't work. I know it feels like it should. You think if you explain better, show more, prove more, they'll finally see it. They won't. Because most people don't change how they see you based on new information. They protect the version of you that benefits them. So if they see you as less, that's not an accident. That's a position. And arguing with that position just locks you into it. Instead, build something they can't ignore. Skill, execution, results. Because being overlooked is only dangerous at fast if you stay average. If you're actually good, really good, then being overlooked is just temporary. Second, if someone stole your credit, don't react the way they expect you to. Don't blow up. Don't go public too early. Don't try to win the argument in the moment. Because the moment doesn't matter, the outcome does. People who steal credit rely on one thing: timing. They take it when it's safe, when there's no pressure, when no one is checking. So you don't fight them there. You wait. You let the situation reach a point where truth matters more than perception. Then you step in, at the right time, in the right place, with the right evidence. That's how you win. Not by being loud. By being precise, because exposing someone when it's convenient feels good. But exposing them when it matters, that changes everything. Third, if your family doesn't respect you, you need to stop trying to earn it. That one's hard, because we're wired to believe family means support. It doesn't always. Some families are homes. Some are just environments you survived. And if you keep trying to prove yourself to people who already decided who you are, you'll stay stuck there. Not because you're not enough, because you're playing a game you can't win. So you step out of it, you build your own standard, your own circle, your own definition of what respect looks like. And you stop negotiating with people who only value you when it benefits them. That's not disloyal, that's survival. Fourth, if you feel invisible, you're probably in the wrong room. I thought I didn't belong because of how they treated me. I was wrong. I didn't belong because that room wasn't built for what I actually bring. And instead of shrinking myself to fit, I walked out. That's the move most people avoid, because it's uncomfortable. Because it feels like losing, it's not. Staying in a space that doesn't recognize your value, that's losing. Leaving it, that's control. So don't shrink to fit the room. Find a room that fits what you bring, or build one. And finally, identity. This is the part no one tells you. Everything changes the moment you stop asking who you are and start acting like you already know. No more waiting for approval. No more adjusting yourself to fit expectations. No more explaining. Just deciding and moving like that decision is final. That's what I did, not because I felt confident, because I was done questioning it. And once you reach that point, people feel it. They may not like it. They may not understand it, but they recognize it. Because certainty is rare, and it's hard to challenge someone who isn't asking for permission anymore. I stepped outside that night and didn't look back. Not because I was angry, because I was finished. Finished trying to fit into something that never had space for me. Finished explaining myself to people who didn't want to understand. Finished carrying expectations that were never mine to begin with. And here's the truth. You don't need a big moment like mine to do the same thing. You don't need a general or a room full of people watching. You just need a decision. One clean, clear decision about who you are and what you're not going to tolerate anymore. After that, everything else lines up. Not easily, not instantly, but clearly. And clarity is more valuable than comfort. Every time. So let me ask you something. Are you still trying to prove yourself to people who benefit from you staying small? I didn't go back the next day. Or the day after that. No calls, no messages, no we need to talk. Just silence. And for once it wasn't heavy, it was clean. I kept my routine simple. Training, briefings, field readiness. The same work I'd always done, just without the noise around it. And that's when I noticed something most people miss. Nothing fell apart. Not my career, not my direction, not my life. Because the things that actually mattered, they were never tied to them. That's the first thing I want you to understand. Walking away doesn't destroy your life. It just removes what was never holding it together in the first place. A week later, I got called into a briefing. Not unusual, but this one felt different. Smaller room, fewer people, no wasted movement. General Garrett was there. So was someone from medical command. No press. No ceremony, just work. Garrett looked at me once, then got straight to it. Your operational report has been reviewed, he said. Actions were effective. That was his version of approval. I nodded. Yes, sir. He slid a folder across the table. New assignment, he said. You'll be leading a rapid response unit. Forward deployment. High-risk extractions. I opened it. Everything inside made sense. Not because it was easy, because it matched what I actually do. Not what someone said I was. Not what looked good on paper, what I was built for. That work for you? He asked. I looked up. Yeah, I said. It does. He nodded once. That was the entire conversation. No speech, no praise, no unnecessary words, just alignment. That's what real recognition looks like. Not applause, access, responsibility, trust. Later that day, I checked my phone. A few missed calls, all from the same number. Home. I stared at it for a second, then locked the screen. Not out of anger, out of clarity. Because I already knew what those calls were. Damage control, rewriting, trying to pull me back into a version of the story where everything could still look normal. But it wasn't normal, and I wasn't going back. That's another thing people struggle with. They think closure comes from conversations, from explanations, from finally saying everything they've been holding in. It doesn't. Closure comes from decisions, from choosing not to go back to something that already showed you what it is. I didn't need to hear apologies, didn't need to fix anything, because nothing was broken on my side. A few days later, I ran into someone from that night, one of the officers. He recognized me immediately. Different energy this time. More respectful, more careful. I didn't know, he said. About what really happened. I shrugged slightly. Most people didn't. He hesitated, then nodded. Well, do. They do now. I looked at him for a second, then said, that wasn't the point. He didn't fully get it. Most people don't, because they still think the goal is to be seen. It's not. The goal is to be effective. Being seen is just a side effect. That night I sat alone for a bit. No noise, no pressure, just space. And I thought about everything. Not emotionally, just clearly. What changed, what didn't, and what actually mattered. Here's what I came up with. You don't need revenge. You don't need to win in front of people. You don't need to make someone regret how they treated you. That stuff feels good for a minute. Then it's gone. What lasts is knowing you didn't compromise who you are to prove something to people who didn't deserve it. That's the real win. If you take anything from this whole story, let it be this: you don't need everyone to see your value. You just need the right situation to reveal it. And when it does, you don't chase it. You don't explain it. You step into it, quietly, confidently, without needing permission. I looked down at my hands one more time. Still the same, still marked, still not clean. And I finally understood something simple. They were never supposed to be. Because the people who actually get things done don't come out of it looking perfect. They come out of it real. And real doesn't need approval, it just needs purpose. I stood up, grabbed my gear, and headed out. No hesitation, no second thoughts, just forward. Because that's the only direction that matters once you stop trying to go back. And if you're still standing in a place that makes you feel small, let me leave you with this. The problem isn't you, it's where you're standing, so move. Because the moment you do, you'll realize something most people never figure out. You were never behind. You were just in the wrong room.
Final note. This story is a work of fiction, but the valuable lessons we discuss are entirely real and continue to happen to many people every day. If this style isn't for you, that's perfectly okay. Please feel free to look for other content that better suits your needs.